Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Gothamites of all ages. We are the Arkham Sessions, brought to you by Comics Alliance. I, of course, am Brian Ward, and as always, I am joined by the psychologists to the superheroes, the superheroines, the supervillains, and maybe even the super sidekicks, Dr. Andrea Letamendi.
Hi there.
Hi there.
That's a lot of people to cover.
It's a lot of people to cover. You're a very busy person. And then you still make time for an hour every week to talk to us.
Well, it's very important.
Yeah. So this week is an exciting week. Why? Because we're dealing with Night of the Ninja, and I'm very interested to see what you could pull out of this one.
That sounds like a challenge.
It might be. But first, I want to bring up a couple of things that we've got going on. Last week, you put together a fantastic article over at Comics Alliance, and it was an observation of like a national or international suicide prevention. Talk a little bit about that.
That's right. September 8th through 14th was National Suicide Prevention Week. Now, globally, this is also a recognized event in that we are just trying to build awareness and educate people about suicide prevention. So I wrote up an article for Comics Alliance describing very common myths about suicide, some common risks related to suicide, and some voices and stories from people in the creative community sharing their experiences around really their personal experiences around suicide. And that includes the voices of both loss and attempt survivors.
Right. Yeah. If you know someone who has dealt with depression and maybe contemplated suicide, or you yourself, or maybe you don't know anyone, I still highly recommend checking this article out, because it's certainly something that everyone should know. They should definitely have something like this right there at their fingertips they can go check out. So go check that out over at Comics Alliance. Drea, we also had a couple of really great emails come in this week. One of the emails we actually had come in last week, but we didn't get an opportunity to cover it in last week's episode. So I did want to make sure we brought that up. And it might actually come full circle a little bit with your personal history, and we will discuss why in a minute. But first, I just want to read this. It is from Caleb, and Caleb says, "First, let me say that I am a huge, huge fan of your podcast. I am a devoted disciple of The Dark Knight, and the discussion about him interests me in any form. But your show elevates the podcast genre to a whole new level." Thank you, Caleb. Not only is your show entertaining, it is also extremely informative and educational. I feel like I'm getting an extra class at school for free just by listening to your episodes every week. That's
wow.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with this email so far. He says, "I have just started my first year in university, and because of how interesting I find your show to be, I have chosen to fill the general education requirements of my degree with psychology courses. Specifically, I have enrolled in the courses that are prerequisites for a senior level course that is all about the study of mental illness and personality disorder, a subject that your show made me interested in. And I feel like I have a leg up on fellow students because of everything I have learned from your podcast. On my first day of class, my professor mentioned the DSM, and I felt excited that I actually knew what he was talking about before he explained its relevance to the class. That is absolutely fantastic to hear. And Andrea, this definitely comes full circle for you a little bit. We've mentioned before that Batman the Animated Series was a gateway for you.
Yeah, that's true. I when I started watching Batman the Animated Series in the early 90s, not only did it get me interested in Batman comics, but it also got me interested in psychology. And I really tie in my I guess my respect and my passion about psychology back to those origins.
Yeah.
And so, and I always say, regarding this show that even if just one person learns something about psychological science from listening to an episode or two, that's great. That means that what we do is of value. And this just takes it a huge step further to hear that someone would be interested in studying psychology. So it's absolutely great to hear. It really is.
Thank you very much, Caleb. We appreciate that. We've also got another email from Dustin. Dustin says, "Hey, about your most recent podcast, I've always felt that Brian's theories add a little more relatability to the podcast. It reminds me of the fan theories that my friends and I always come up with when we watch a new series or read a comic. Keep it coming. They are awesome. Thank you, Dustin. I appreciate that. Of course, we're talking about last week. We mentioned that my off-the-wall theories regarding the series and Batman specifically. And I appreciate that from Dustin.
Is this letter from you?
I promise. It is from Dustin.
All right.
Thank you, Dustin. Not me.
Well, in fairness, yes, you do come up with theories that I don't think of them. You know, they're often surprising, but I think that you do often have some good insight and perspectives and are probably asking things that some of our listeners are asking or wondering about in regards to Batman psychology.
That's right. Other listeners like Dustin, not me. No, but thank you, Dustin. We very much appreciate it. And actually, he has some comments that you're going to address, offline a little bit. And then I should also say we've been receiving a lot of emails as people have been coming and listening to the previous episodes. They have comments and questions about those episodes as well. And I think it could kind of be cool if you and I maybe go back and do sort of a wrap up of the previous episodes where we get to address some of those comments and questions from folks who are listening to the show.
Yeah, that's great. It's sort of like a love line for Batman.
Yeah, it's exactly like a love line for Batman.
But we'll stay away from questions regarding below the waist issues.
I think those are the best Batman questions to ask.
This is true.
So thank you, everybody. As always, you can email us. We are arkhamsessions@gmail.com. You can come and find us on Twitter. We are at Arkham Sessions. So definitely come and find us. Talk to us. We will probably read your email or message online or on the show. And, we always look forward to hearing from you. Okay, so let's talk about this week's episode.
When you're ready.
So we are dealing with Night of the Ninja. It was written by Steve Perry.
Oh.
Yeah, not that Steve Perry.
Oh.
And directed by Kevin Altieri. This one opens up at Wayne Cosmetics, and there is a robbery taking place. But it's not just any robbery. This one is done by a ninja who is stealing a bunch of Wayne Enterprises money. It's the kind of thing that ninjas do in Gotham City, I guess. You go and you rob Wayne Enterprises organizations.
Well, that's where the money is.
Yeah, apparently. So then, in an effort to escape, that ninja then uses a shuriken. Shuriken. It's a throwing star.
Like a ninja star.
Yes, it is exactly a ninja star. And he uses this ninja star and cuts a security guard's flashlight in half. Next thing you know, he's gone, like a good ninja would be. He's not really all that good a ninja, though, because he was seen in the first place, which is sort of anti-ninja-y. But we kind of find out why he's an awful ninja later. Because maybe he didn't get all the training he should have. But then we go from there to a sort of parallel story. It's Bruce training Dick. Bruce, a black belt, Dick, a green belt, which seems odd to me that Bruce would allow Dick to be Robin and go out there into Gotham City fighting crime with him, and he's only a green belt.
Oh, so how good is a green belt?
Middle.
Okay.
So
he's it's not terrible. It's not like he's just starting out.
Yeah, he's not starting out. He's not a white belt, but he is only a green belt. I wouldn't necessarily let him become Robin with a green belt. But he's out there training Dick, and unfortunately, Dick isn't necessarily as perfect as Bruce would like.
Sorry, some of us aren't perfect.
And unfortunately, Bruce is a bit rigid. He demands perfection.
Again.
Alfred comes in and explains that there's been yet another robbery. And we find out that this has been the 6th one in 2 weeks.
Well, 7.
That's the same mistake that Dick made, and Bruce corrects him yet again.
Frankly, I think that Bruce is he's frustrated with Dick. He wants him to be just as detail-oriented and perfect as he is. And he's not. So he keeps correcting him.
Yeah.
And Dick is becoming, we see that tension and that resentment come back. We haven't seen this, of course, since Robin's Reckoning, where we thought that there was this reconciliation, but clearly there's still tension between them.
Yeah, it is a little interesting when you look at the parallels within this episode of young Bruce versus older Bruce, Dick Grayson versus younger Bruce. And then we also look at the parallels to that Robin's Reckoning episode where Bruce is sort of on a mission during this one. He is going to go fight some of his past and doesn't necessarily want Dick Grayson to be involved. So Bruce visits the crime scene at Wayne Cosmetics, and he recognizes that shuriken. And we see a flashback to his past, which is always fascinating to see where Bruce Wayne kind of came from. Turns out he was living in Japan, and he was learning martial arts from the martial arts master there in Japan. And we get to see that he was good. He was really good, but he wasn't the best. He wasn't the Bruce Wayne that we are accustomed to seeing. He had a classmate who was consistently beating him. So you can only imagine how difficult this must have been for Bruce.
Right.
And we start to get the impression that maybe Bruce knows a little something about this throwing star, maybe where it came from. He certainly does seem to recognize it. That, or he has flashbacks to Japan every time he sees some sort of, throwing star or, katana or some other. But yeah, he seems to know a little bit about this. And he starts to think back on his time, and he starts to realize that he was someone who was constantly striving for perfection. We actually hear his sensei say,
"You practice as a man obsessed."
And Bruce's reaction to that is simply,
I have to be the best there is, no matter what it takes.
Oh, young teenage-ish, young 20-something Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about his obsession with being the best.
Yeah.
Is this because he knows what it is he's trying to do? He knows his mission. He knows that he needs to be the best. Or is it also kind of an ego thing as well, that he needs to be able to beat his classmate Kyodai Ken?
I think it's a combination of things. We don't know yet whether he's developed this Batman persona. We could probably guess that he is... his energy, his vision, his passion, some of his anger and some of these more negative emotions are probably going towards something. And, I think most of us are frustrated and are down on ourselves when we consistently lose. But there's something about his interest in becoming the best. It's very clear that he has, it could be that he's formed his mission and he really needs to complete this training and be the best in this dojo. And so, I think that's the meaning of this interaction between him and this opponent. So that's just my take on it.
Yeah. He's very frustrated, but he actually learns a very valuable lesson here. And that is,
defeat can be more instructive than victory.
What?
Yeah, apparently you can learn from failure.
No, you can't. Okay, so clearly this is a very wise thing to say, and it's very true that you can't really be the best until you know what it's like to lose and feel, have those experiences of, that's kind of what resiliency is, right? Remember, we've talked about resiliency before.
Yeah.
That you can't really be resilient until you've encountered stressors and challenges, and then you know how to overcome those challenges. So I think that's what a sensei is talking about.
Yeah. Now, something that I find interesting here is the juxtaposition between Bruce Wayne in Japan and Bruce here back in the States in Gotham City. And that is, at one point, Dick asks Alfred, what's the deal? Why is he so upset? And Alfred's response is,
You know Master Bruce, he's not one to discuss his feelings.
Isn't that the truth?
so he doesn't discuss his feelings here. He has pinned them down. But we saw that when discussing with his sensei, he was frustrated. And he told him, I'm not the best. I need to be the best. I'm very upset by this. And his sensei gives him some very valuable advice. But he was certainly more open, younger than he is now. So he has closed himself off since then. Talk a little bit about the repression of those sorts of feelings. The fact that we've now learned what we've kind of always known, but now Alfred is saying it. Master Bruce doesn't talk about his feelings.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence isn't so much, when people say intelligence, you think, oh, this is a kind of a static thing that, you either have it or you don't. But emotional intelligence is it's sort of thinking about like a type of intelligence, and it's an adaptive developmental thing. Mm-hmm. Emotional intelligence gets at their ability to perceive, to understand, and to manage their own emotions. And the huge part of that is also understanding and perceiving other people's emotions and that interaction between them. So back in the day, there was this thing called social intelligence, and it was basically the idea that someone's ability to form relationships and to interact with others, that clearly that's important to us socially, right? More recently, that has evolved, and there's this component of that related to emotional intelligence, and again, that gets at someone's ability to perceive emotions, to understand them, and to really grow and adapt and utilize that knowledge to interact successfully and meaningfully. And we see that with Bruce. He's, as you said, he at some point was able to experience some feelings and to express them and to act upon them. And now he's much more closed off.
But those feelings were of sort of self-disgust, of disappointment, of angst in some way.
Negative feelings.
Then you've got Dick, conversely, who is very expressive with his emotions, whether they're good or bad. You go all the way back to Christmas with the Joker. Very much wanted to be a part of a family situation and environment, and wanted to share some sort of pleasurable experience with Bruce and Alfred. He seems to be very in tune with not only his emotions, but also the emotions of those around him.
Right. And, he recognizes when Bruce is much more closed off or down or somewhat isolating himself, he checks in with Alfred like, hey, what's going on with him? Is he okay?
Yeah.
Whereas we don't see this happen with Bruce as much. There are times when Dick is somewhat down or in need of support. And those are not times when Bruce Wayne makes himself available. He's not really, tuned in to other people's needs.
Which is precisely why Alfred had to explain to Bruce during that 2-episode Robin's Reckoning that, you've got this kid who needs somebody and you're not around.
Right.
And you didn't know if it was Bruce as Batman simply trying to solve this mystery and catch the guy responsible for young Dick, because he was saying that he was saying that, I'm doing this for him. But I don't know that Dick needed him to, more than he needed someone to be there for him.
Right. And that's a huge part of emotional intelligence. It's that ability to acknowledge and recognize when someone else, someone who's grieving, someone who's suffering, that they need support, that they need someone to talk to, that they need, that validation. And again, Bruce isn't quite successful with that. That's an area where I would say he has low to moderate emotional intelligence.
He can be a major jerk, but you gotta love him.
This ninja, he attacks Wayne Enterprises. And who's there waiting for him? Batman. And Batman's got this opportunity to face this villain who doesn't know who he is. He doesn't realize he's Bruce Wayne. And he actually says that my battle isn't with you. But if you get out of my way, I'll let you live. If not, I'm going to have to take you on. And he fights Batman, and the ninja's a little surprised that the Batman is able to sort of keep up with him a little bit. Although he does clearly seem to have a little bit of advantage, the ninja, over Batman. And shoots his gas, which incapacitates Batman for a period of time. Robin swoops in and helps save the day, and the ninja ends up escaping. Robin's like, well, I thought the samurai were honorable people.
He's not samurai. He's a ninja. They're spies and assassins. Their only code is to get the job done.
Yeah. And he knows this guy and tells Dick that he knows this guy, which kind of puts him on the same path that Dick was with Tony Zuko. He's got this personal vendetta, and throughout the episode, he has been preventing Robin from coming with him. Earlier on, he actually ends up telling Dick, who offers to go put on his costume, he actually says,
"Not this time, Dick."
So, again, just like with Tony Zuko, Batman is going off without Robin.
Right, and this time it's not to protect Robin. It's really to take on this particular opponent. This is the only person that has really beat him, that has really been his superior. And I think that that's hugely important right now to his ego.
I would say that it's probably more realistic during this episode that Batman is legitimately concerned for Robin's physical well-being than it would have been in the Tony Zuko episodes.
Mm-hmm.
This is the guy who consistently beat me. I never really beat Kyodai Ken.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not convinced that he couldn't take us both on.
Yeah,
so
and
maybe
Robin,
you're a green belt.
And Robin's just a green belt.
So you stay at home. I'm going to go see if I can get this done. But really, some of it very well easily could have been due to ego or his own need to beat.
I think so. I really think this is mainly about himself.
I'm fine.
Oh.
So what I thought was interesting, let's see if you picked up on this. There's a point when he is talking to Robin about his having known Kyodai Ken in Japan.
He and Bruce Wayne were students together in Japan a long time ago.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Well, why is he referring to Bruce Wayne in the third person?
No idea. You tell me that, Doc. What is up with Batman?
I mean, the only thing I can think is that they're both in their costumes. So whenever he's in his Batman, whenever he's in his costume, he has to refer to Bruce Wayne as another person.
Yeah. Now, does this go back to the whole Bruce Wayne Batman thing? Like, is it straight up he is a different personality, he is a different persona, a different character altogether?
I wonder if it has to do with the idea that when Bruce Wayne was in Japan, that the Batman persona didn't exist yet. So he couldn't say, well, that, when I was training in Japan, I don't know. He seems to act. It's like that. That's a different person. Mm-hmm. That's not yet the complex multiple identity person here now. It's like, the past. This is just. Honestly, it's bizarre because it's just the two of them in the Batmobile. There's no reason to refer to him in third person.
Never. No, I don't understand it. But Robin wants to know, who was this guy?
His name is Kyodai Ken. He was good.
Yeah? How good?
Good.
That's very, very abrupt.
Yeah.
Good. Look, just...
Don't ask.
Shut up, kid. He's good. Don't you worry about it. But it starts to sort of posed the question to Robin, maybe I'm seeing Bruce Wayne for the very first time afraid of someone. And he asks Alfred about it.
He never admits fears, Master Dick. Haven't you learned that by now?
So again, Alfred is pointing out that Bruce doesn't acknowledge his emotions. He does not admit fear. Bruce is pretty closed off.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we were talking about regarding emotional intelligence, that when you do not express some of your emotions, you don't communicate to other people that you might have some needs there, right? The need to be validated, the need to be consoled, the need to be supported. And he loses out on all of that because he's keeping these negative emotions to himself, or I'm not even sure that he's willing to experience the emotions.
Yeah.
So, we know that can't be healthy. That really doesn't do him any good. And in fact, there's research to show that suppressing emotion like that, especially negative emotions, anger, sadness, some of these really strong, intense states of emotionality, that can be pretty dangerous to our own mental health and medical health. I'm referring to some really popular studies that looked at the linkage between persons who were suppressing emotions and higher levels of medical illnesses, high blood pressure, even cancer.
Right.
So, and those relationships, I should say that, there are a lot of studies that show this, but those relationships are correlations, right? So when I say correlation, I mean, there's that connection there, but we don't know what came first.
Gotcha.
Oftentimes we don't know if there was let's say a medical health issue, and that led to suppression of emotion. So, nonetheless, there is that relationship there, and it could lead to an understanding that it's an unhealthy, that suppression of emotions is an unhealthy way of coping.
So we start to see that maybe all this suppression of emotions is maybe linked to these memories a little bit as well, because as Bruce realizes that his old nemesis is in town, every little thing he sees that's Japanese starts to trigger these memories of having trained there. And he is at a charity banquet where, conveniently enough, there are two katana blades. They're in a glass case, and he looks down at it and remembers an experience. We've seen this story before. Snake Eyes walks in, catches Storm Shadow.
What?
Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne walks in and catches Kyodai Ken stealing a priceless katana blade, and rather than let him get away, the old sensei comes in, says, "You've dishonored this dojo, you are banished." So as a result of Bruce being there and witnessing it and getting him in trouble, Kyodai Ken is no longer allowed to train there, which might be why he's not a very good ninja. And he is forced to become a thief.
Isn't it just odd that this ninja is basically, I mean, of all the things he could do in Gotham City, he's just like a common thief.
Not a common thief, woman. A great thief. The best.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, he's the best. Don't question him, Drea. Seriously.
I can think of one person that might be better.
Oh, really?
He now has motivation for going and striking down Bruce Wayne, and even says,
I will take all that you hold dear, and then I will destroy you.
Seems fair?
He has his own mission.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Summer Gleason is there when Bruce Wayne is taken from this charity banquet, along with her, when Kyodai Ken is disguised as his driver. And he gasses them both, takes them away, gets back into his black ninja outfit, and explains that this is the time. This is what he's going to do. And he's taking it all out on Bruce Wayne. and unfortunately Summer, who is collateral damage. So with Bruce and Summer incapacitated, who comes in to help? Robin. But he sets off a laser alarm and has to fight Kyodai Ken up on the roof. And I will say, he kind of does okay for himself a little bit. I mean,
For a green belt.
For a green belt. He gets a nice kick to the throat. And I don't know if that's an accident for the animator, but it looks very impressive. But Kyodai Ken decides that he can't be bothered with this, ends up slicing the water tower, sweeping Robin away. By the time Kyodai Ken gets down back to Bruce and Summer, Bruce has actually cut the ropes with a statue that's holding a sword. And the two of them are given an opportunity to fight. The two of them are fighting, but Bruce isn't really doing a very good job. He's kind of getting pummeled.
Well, but Summer Gleason is there witnessing this.
Yeah.
So in some way, he can't really be fighting to, 100% because she'll wonder why he's such a good fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, she's already got lots of questions about him. She's sort of going all out to investigate Bruce Wayne. So the idea that he then, right there in front of her, is able to take on a ninja could raise a few more questions than he once raised. So he is taking a beating. Luckily for him, Robin comes in and throws a batarang or something, and Summer then finds herself under carpet where she can't see the fight happening, and apparently can't hear the fight happening either, because there's a lot of conversation that takes place between Kyodai Ken and Bruce that acknowledges that Kyodai knows exactly who he is. And it's not a coincidence that I've attacked Bruce Wayne's enterprises. But the two of them end up fighting, and Bruce just goes to town now. He sort of becomes Batman without actually becoming Batman. And he owes it all to Robin. Unfortunately, Kyodai Ken gets away. He jumps out the window and goes into a reservoir, and that's the last we see of him in this episode. But for the very first time, Bruce acknowledges that he couldn't have done it without Robin having been there. Very similar to the way Robin acknowledges that it's a good thing Batman was there during Robin's Reckoning Part 2, I think. So let's talk about where these two are at this point, at the end of this episode. We've seen them kind of make up once before. Are they back to where they were then? Like, can we expect this to be an ongoing struggle going forward?
I think so. I think certainly we have to see their relationship as one that adapts, and the parallel or the narrative of Bruce training Dick is really important, right? We see it in the form of karate and in other ways that they're fighting together and they're practicing. But I think essentially we're reminded, right, that Bruce is his caretaker, he's his mentor, and he's trying to teach him very important lessons. Meanwhile, Dick, as he develops into his own, he has his own individual personality and psychology and his own mission. And as he gets older, he's going to realize how different they are and that he may want different things. He may not necessarily like the aspects of Bruce that, as we talked about, involve suppressing emotion. And we really see the tension and the miscommunication and the difficulty between them when earlier in this episode, Robin essentially saves Batman. He's overtaken by that gas, and the ninja is trying to get away, and Robin comes in and unexpectedly helps Batman. But at the end of that, Batman does not say thank you. or Bruce does not say thank you. He doesn't acknowledge that Dick was helpful.
Thanks for saving my bacon, Robin.
Yeah.
That's Robin sort of mimicking, like, oh, what would Batman actually tell me? And I think that's coming out of a place of resentment and anger, and that's an unmet need. That's what we would call an unmet need. I need you to acknowledge that I'm helpful and that you want me here and that you've taught me something and I'm meaningful. I have purpose. But instead you turn around and you say, let's go home. So, I think that really gets at one of Robin's needs. We saw that from the very beginning in Christmas with the Joker, right? That he needs to have that connection with Bruce. So at this episode, you do see Bruce kind of begin to recognize that and say, thank you. I really appreciated that you were there at the end of the episode, which teaches us, well, he's not perfect, right? He wants to be perfect and he acts like he's perfect. But when it comes to emotional intelligence, he's not perfect. He has a lot to learn.
I don't know that this is the last time that we're ever going to see Kyodai Ken. And in fact, Batman himself, Bruce, thinks that he might see him again, even acknowledging that ninjas are very resourceful. So it's very possible that we might end up seeing him again sometime in the future. I look forward to that time. What about you? Any final thoughts on this particular episode, where these guys are? It seems like this particular episode deals more with where Bruce and Dick are than anything else. I mean, you've got a very standard revenge plot, but we've talked about revenge in the past. This one seems to be giving us a better look at where the relationship is between Bruce and Dick.
Yeah, I think it's yet another episode that shows actual differences between them. And as we talked about, it shows some deficits that Bruce Wayne has regarding interpersonal relationships, expression of emotion, ability to understand other people's needs. Those are huge. Those are like really important things. And, notice that I didn't say here that he has some kind of disorder, but I'm saying that these are areas that could be deficits and could be ones that he could be better at in order for him to have a more fulfilling life.
This is a legitimate question that I have for you, and not an off-the-wall theory.
Here we go.
Could Bruce be working his way down into a disorder if he were to continue down this path of never acknowledging the good things in other people, or constantly trying to do things on his own, or because it concerns me that so many people around him seem to notice these deficits.
Right.
But he doesn't. He doesn't necessarily seem to notice them, at least until afterward. Like, I think at the end of this episode, he did thank Dick for helping him. But I'm not sure that he saw it until then.
I think he has this conceptualization of himself that he must be somewhat, rigid and closed off emotionally and isolated. Part of it, I think, is that he feels he deserves that. Now,
could that also be headed down a disorder?
Sure.
If you believe that you're the only one who can do this, and you're so rigid in that belief that you won't let others help you or participate, and it could be your downfall. It seems that Bruce keeping all of this in and remaining so rigid, if you're not willing to say that he has some sort of disorder now, is it the kind of thing that he could work himself into? Or is that not how disorders work?
Well, I mean, you're asking a very complex question. And I'm going to say what I always say, which is it depends. So it depends on what happens to him. It depends on his environment. It depends on his his genetics. It depends on so many things. But yeah, absolutely. If you think about why are certain coping styles considered maladaptive or unhealthy, it's because they lead us down a path toward dysfunction. So you have to think about, like, is this going to impact his level of functioning on, domains of his life? There actually is research that shows that, persons who are not emotionally in tune with others, are at a disadvantage. The flip side of that, of course, is if you are emotionally in tune with others, if your emotional intelligence is strong, then you're more likely to succeed in your career, to have a stable long-term romantic relationship, and to have more healthy family and parenting relationships. And that's compared to persons who do not have strong emotional intelligence. And this is, I keep saying the word intelligence. That's no matter where you are academically in your academic intelligence. This purely comes from that sense of perceiving and understanding your own and other people's emotions. So I can't answer your question there, but I think that, of course, there is the potential for that to lead him down certainly an unhealthy pathway.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Great episode. Looking forward to next week's episode where we get to revisit Selena Kyle.
Wonderful.
Yay. Drea, we've got some appearances coming up pretty soon that we should probably start letting people know about.
Sure. So we are going to be at Long Beach Comic Con, where I have a panel. And of course, you will be there as well.
I will be there. And I'm looking forward to it. It might be the first time I've ever been to Long Beach Comic Con.
It will be my second. It's a great convention.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And we'll certainly talk more about that next week as it gets closer. But people should definitely come and check that out. And then next month, we're going to be doing San Diego Comic Fest. So we recommend that people come check that out as well. In fact, particularly Arkham Sessions listeners might want to come see us at San Diego Comic Fest. We'll explain why more later. But until next week, you can come find us on Twitter. We are at Arkham Sessions. Drea, where are you on Twitter?
I'm at Arkham Asylum Doc. I also have a website, underthemaskonline.com.
And you can email us. We are arkhamsessions@gmail.com. And you can come find me on Twitter. I am at bward028. There are 3 fantastic ways of hearing this podcast. There is anywhere that you get your RSS feed, like iTunes and the like, or you can come find us on Comics Alliance 2 days earlier, where you can see us on their YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe so that you can get a sneak peek at our episode each week. And then we've also become members of Stitcher. So if you like to stream your podcasts, go to Stitcher, look us up, and you can check us out there. It's just like radio. I've been using it pretty religiously over the last week for various podcasts. So I've been enjoying it. Yeah. Lots of fun. And we look forward to even more next week. Until then, I'm Brian Ward.
I'm Dr. Andrea Letamendi.
And we are
the Arkham Sessions.